recording going, and I saw Cindy just joined.
Perfect timing. All right. Well, out of respect of everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10:02. So just a reminder from roll call introductions. We do not do a roll call introductions for everybody on the call. So we are asking that you sign in. So that would mean you go to the task force page, you click this sign in there and enter in your name and agency. So if you could please do that at some point today, that would be greatly appreciated. So from that, we'll go straight into our project update. So Cindy, hopefully you can hear me fine.
Yes, sorry, I jumped on the wrong link at first.
No problem. So if you could take some time and go through this project schedule, status of installs. I did not receive anything from you in writing, so I don't have anything to display.
Sorry, I thought I sent something out. Make sure I actually did. Not much has changed from last month, unfortunately. But we do have some small progress. CSP Pueblo is got their rack, so they're scheduled for ESInet install on the 15th for their project. So that one's moving forward. Buckley, we're still working with Motorola and Taito Athene back and forth on the changes necessary to make the KP48 testing. And it looks like they're going to have a field tech out the week of the 29th based on the email I just got 3 minutes ago. To work on the issue at Buckley and hoping to do another scheduled test on the 2nd. So I'll reach out to Entrado and see if we can coordinate that. That which leaves us with 2, which is Shriver and Cheyenne Mountain.
Okay.
And Shriver and Cheyenne Mountain are scheduled to do test out their fiber and facilities between the 30th and December 3rd. And once that's done, we should have the green light to install equipment at Cheyenne Mountain and complete our survey and circuit installation at Shriver.
Okay. Some progress.
Some progress.
Great. Some progress.
Very small baby steps, but
okay. Anybody on from CSP, Buckley, Shriver, or Cheyenne that would like to ask questions, have comments about the status of your install? Okay, Cindy, I wish I can offer you some assistance, but we've tried to help these along the entire time of the project and haven't been successful. So I'm glad that small steps are being made forward and hopefully we'll be able to get this wrapped up over the next few months.
Yes, that's my hope too.
Okay, issue tracking spreadsheet. So
I don't really have any issues I'm tracking at the current moment. We have the Expo probe replacement project that's lingering in the background once devices become available. But that project's still on hold pending devices.
Do you have any timeline? Is it just finding the physical hardware, getting it shipped and getting dates?
Yeah, we've ordered it. It's just getting it in stock. It's been delayed because of some of the just general chip manufacturing outages that are going on.
Okay. And then from a transfer ESInet CPE issue, you're not tracking any issues? Because I know I've sent over a few specifically for AdCom.
I know Vicki was working with AdCom on a couple of things. Let me get with her. I don't have them on my issue tracker, but.
Okay, I did include you on my last email.
I do see that. I have it.
Yeah.
And the problem log you sent through.
So is anybody on from AdCom today?
Yeah, Joel Estes is here.
Okay, Joel, so from a issue tracker perspective, it was hard for me to discern exactly was a 911 to 911 transfer. A lot of the issues appear to be from 911 to 10 digit or 10 digit to 10 digit. So do you just want to give a summary of what issues you are encountering in case we have other PSEPs authorities that are in the same situation?
Actually, I don't have the latest list in front of me, but I do know that we're experiencing basically all three. So we've had some 911 to 911 transfers that didn't go the way that they were supposed to. We've also had 911 to 10 digit and 10 digit to 10 digit. So basically the whole spectrum we've had issues with at various times.
There's no consistency.
No, it's intermittent. It's really weird. We can't see like a real pattern to it, and that's really what's causing a lot of the problems.
But hey, Joe, this is Wes. If it's admin to admin, that's solely inside your Viper there. Could there be a relationship to the other stuff?
Yeah, we're looking at that with Converge 1 too.
Yeah.
But we've also been told that it's. I think Thornton was going through some of the same things, so it doesn't look like it was just us.
Yeah,
Actually,
what
I
I'm
called
confused
I called
about-
Thornton and
Yeah.
I called Sean over there, and she is not having that unless it's a call transferred to just AdCom. That's what she told me.
Okay. Well, she told me something different. I don't know if she's on the phone right now.
Well, I can certainly put together a call to talk through it, because what I'm confused about on the email is the reference to 2-digit star codes, because we on the ESInet don't support any 2-digit star codes. That sounds like it's something specific to maybe an internal Viper transfer.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was confused with as well, was the conversation around 2-digit star codes, and Converge One responded back to the email string and said that that's something special that they set up specifically for AdCom, and it does sound like that could be something on the Viper side that they're working on, but it should never be used for a 911 to 911. So the transfers 911 to 10 digit, again outside of the ESInet, 10 digit to 10 digit outside of the ESInet. So a lot of this is Viper CPE from the list I've seen. So trying to understand exactly what is on the ESInet is of course my biggest concern.
Right.
So so Cindy, I did send over the latest spreadsheet I have. I did send that to you and
On
to Vicky.
on Monday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see a hand being raised from Connie. Connie, did you have something?
We've had 2 issues just in the last week. We're trying to transfer 911 to 911 down to Wesco in Montrose, and it's ended up in Pitkin County both times. Checked everything. Nothing has changed in our programming, but just to add more fuel to this interesting fire.
And are you using a 3-digit transfer or pre-programmed button?
3-digit transfer on our pre-programmed button.
Okay. And Connie, which PSAP are you?
We're Delta County, and
Delta,
I've got
okay.
Vesta.
And Ryan maintains that. Yeah, that needs to be looked at for sure, Connie.
Connie, did you open a ticket with Lumen so they could track and see what's going on and look at that number?
I will do that as soon as we're off the phone. I did not. I was going to talk to Brian about it and hadn't connected with him yet.
And they both ended up in Pitkin.
Both ended up in Pitkin.
Okay.
Okay, so how do you want to tackle the AdCom issue, Cindy? Are you going to set up a call to narrow in specifically on any 911 transfer concerns? Joel indicated he's got some documentation that shows 911 to 911, so we'd want to dive into that.
Yeah, it sounds like we need a call with maybe everybody involved, even Thornton and Westminster if we can, and Converge One, just to get a clear understanding of what the issues are. And then, yeah, focusing on the 911 to 911 and see if we get any examples we can pull logs on.
Okay, great. So Joel, is that something that you can just key up since you've got the contacts with your CPE and PBX providers?
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. And then from a ticket, Connie, if you can document the phone number, that would be really helpful. So then they would be able to, the date, time, and phone number, then they can look at the logs to see what was going on with that.
I will do that. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about transfer issues or having any other ESInet issues? Okay, am I to assume, Cindy, everything with Summit County is resolved? All of our issues, Vail, solved?
I've had no more reports of issues. I don't want to go so far as to say they're solved, but I haven't had any more.
Mark's on the phone from Vail. Maybe he can update us.
That would be great. Mark, do you have a status? I know a lot of these had to do with your CP, PBX, and all of those transfers, but obviously we're gearing up for ski season. So do you have a status of where that's at for your PSAP?
Oh, he said his mic is broken, but they don't have any problems.
Okay. So the upgrade to direct SIP, and upgrading the call handling equipment seems to have resolved.
Yep. I talked with him last week, and I think that's I think we're good now. It was yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody have any other issues that they're tracking on the ESInet? Okay. Perfect. Old business. So the next item would be you, Wes, for you to provide us an update on where we are with text to 911 and ECATs.
Okay. Well, the good news first, Kimberly, for the ECATs, we will. I'll get with Tim Kunkelman and furnish a document to send out to everybody of what the service entails and all the different features of it. It's a pretty good laundry list of what the standard ECATS offering is at the base level. It's got a number of summary reports that are available. And man, the list is about 25 different feature functions that can go along with that ECATS. I recall that they went through most of that, I think back, wasn't it in September, I believe, that we had a session with them. And I can, Kimberly, would you like me to send something to you to send out to the field as the summary of what the ECATS will do?
I think that would be great if there's a document, white paper on exactly the type of reports that we're going to be able to pull of what's going to be in the standard tariff amendment that is going to be filed.
Yes, and yeah, it's a laundry list of a lot of, there's a lot of horsepower in this compared to, of course, Clearview. And it's pretty detailed at its base level. Now, then moving on, though, we originally thought that we were going to be able to do text to 911 reporting on ECATS, and that remains to be a question. We've been trying to work with Intrado on including basically the capability of allowing the text to go down the bandwidth of the session channel, if you will. And even though that is capable, in Colorado, it's a little bit different where that's been done in other states with us, where text was enabled, if you will, behind the scenes, where we did statewide Viper onboarding, where they could push it out to all the different same Vipers in the state. It was level set with an ESInet with the same type of equipment, and that was rather easy to do. However, as we know in Colorado, we've got every kind of CPE under the sun, I think, that's made, of which not that many of them are maintained by us. and with what Entrado is asking is for us to hook up that, it's just too complex. It's complex at this point for us to offer text. I've been trying to move the Entrado senior execs to be a little bit more flexible here, but at this point, we can't offer it.
So Wes, I guess I'm confused. So bear with me. The ESInet user group, when we talked about what the scope would be for text across the ESInet, it was text coming into the ESInet from the TCC. So it'd be Lumen saying, "Hey TCC, here's your entry point, right? Here's where you can enter into the network," and then able to deliver that text to the demarcation. And basically it's just the connection is already there. So once the TCC has an entry point into the network, if the PSAP, if the authority installs call handling equipment to take the text, then that's all on our side, the demarcation. And we know that Entrado, Lumen can't solve things on our demarcation, and we frankly don't really want you to. We like that autonomy of being able to pick our CPE and pick our tech solution, integrated, standalone, etc. So I'm confused on why Entrado executives would say that they can't work with you on creating that entry point, or why Lumen isn't able to say to the TCCs, this is where you can deliver text across that ESInet, and then it comes to my demarcation. I'm an integrated Viper solution, and I've got the licensing, I've got the call handling equipment, and I would just take it from there, knowing that that's my connection where that data is going to come from. So I'm really confused on this.
Entrado says, hey, Lumen, this is your ESInet service. We're a partnership, but you have the end customer responsibility. So if we are going to deliver text down that IP span, then you, Lumen, assume responsibility and must sell and take responsibility for that text service, no matter what type of CPE it is under the sun. And we're not prepared to do that. That's the rub. They want us to assume responsibility. And when we first talked about this in the group and with others in Entrado, is that we were going to do exactly what you said, and that was my understanding as well. But it has since when they went up to senior leadership over there, they're wanting us to assume responsibility for selling and being oversight for that texting cost. And we're just, that's too complex. And frankly, where I really had a rub with Entrado is that they want us to, their cost to us is the same as what they've already sold to customers. And it's kind of a deficit delivery for responsibility and cost and all the rest of that as they're positioning this. So I've asked them to genuflect a little bit on their business model there and see if they can't do something better that's a win-win for Colorado ESInet users, Lumen, and Entrado. And I've yet to get an answer.
And Wes, in other states, when we understand Colorado's unique with allowing 911 being the ESInet being tariffed, and also all the various different CPEs deployed on, again, our side of the demarcation that we get to control and set what's right for our call handling equipment. In other states where Lumen, in partnership with Entrado, when you have that partnership and you've delivered text across the network, it's because you're delivering it to the same CPE across the entire state.
Yes. We are hosting it in Nebraska and South Dakota, and we can take that into those hosted nodes. And that's the same thing we did in Arizona. We actually did it for Avesta as well as Viper. And we can incorporate text into the service then and just push it out to all the different PSAP sites because it's the same technology, level setting it, and it's an easy push. But here, it's 58 different unique contracts, and in those states too, by the way, they were a single decision in the state to do that. for that single type of CPE that was reimbursed automatically throughout the entire state. So we've got a different thing to wrestle with here.
Thank you, Wes. Daryl, do you happen to know off the top of your head how many authorities, regions still are without text in our state? I have not pulled that up recently.
It's very few. Let me see here.
And while Daryl's pulling that up, does anybody have any questions for Wes on text to 911 or ECATs?
Well, Kimberly, I could add something on the ECATs. I will furnish a document from ECATs on their description of services and what they're offering at the different levels. And if we can, and there's a second step to that as well, that if we're incorporating texting reports, if we can get Entrada to move on that, there'll be an enhancement to ECATs to track all the texting calls. But at base level with ECATs for all these various sundry reports that we can get, it would add per session of $43.95 per month to the tariff cost of $752.22.
Okay, so we do have a question with Jackie, but I just want to make sure that I heard that information. So from ECATs, right now when Lumen files their tariff amendment, the increase to the cost is going to be an additional $43.95 per SIP session per month.
Correct.
Okay. And so everybody, when that's filed, will have that visibility and will be able to ask questions. Obviously, that whole process just takes time, and you'll provide us in writing before you actually file the tariff. Is that right, Wes?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I can do that pretty quickly too, Kimberly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Darryl.
Wes, I was focusing on getting this map up. Can you tell me again what that amount per concurrent session was?
$43.95.
So just for everyone's reference, that's about half a cent of surcharge increase.
Great. Thanks, Daryl. Jackie, we'll go with your question and then we'll talk about Daryl's screen.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that ECATS was going to be able to track wireless calls by ESN.
Well, then I think we have to, well, good question. I'll have to check on that, Jackie, on that detail.
Okay, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
It
document.
does have a top ESN report, folks, in here as one of the feature functions. So I assume a wireless call sector is included in that. But the specificity here of what you're asking for, I'll have to check just to make sure I'm answering you correctly.
Yeah, and I think, Wes, that document that puts in writing what the cost would be, it will be critical for us to also see in writing exactly what those reports are. And then if we have questions, we can always do that follow-up presentation request with the ECATS experts. But just knowing like the laundry list, the bullet points of all the different reports that we will get would be really helpful.
I'll do that post haste.
That's
I'm
great.
staring at it right now. I just need to memorialize it for the group here.
Okay. Okay, so Daryl, go ahead. Thanks for pulling that up.
Sure. So green is where
Kimberly.
text.
Hey, Kimberly. Tim Kunkelman. Can I jump in for just a quick second on the text? You know, we were talking about some of that. Does anyone feel that the language in the tariff needs some strengthening around text? Not for us offering it, but just for the ability to utilize the ESInet for text purposes. I know we kind of addressed it, but I just wanted to make sure everybody feels comfortable with the existing language, or if anybody sees a need, since we're going to make some adjustments, now would be a good time to do that.
Tim, I think that's a great question. And while everyone's coming off mute or raising their hands to comment on that, I think the piece that if I recall, and I don't have the language in front of me, that the tariff is pretty clear that it does not include text offering and that there is no foundation for text to come across the network. What we heard today from Wes is that it's not available in this round. It doesn't mean that it won't happen later down the road, but it's going to be complicated and there's a roadblock within Trotto. So I don't know what value there would be on adding additional language at this time, especially if it's something that just can't be done. You add language and you guys won't be able to do it without, I don't even know the cost, paying triple what we pay today. We don't want to do that. Am I tracking this correctly? Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim, I defer you. I think Kimberly capsulized that accurately at this point until we could get something different from Entrada.
Yeah, I was just thinking more along the lines of, capability, functionality as an ability of the service to carry such traffic, whether it's from us, Entrada, or anyone else. I wasn't sure if there was any sort of discrepancy on a capability.
Got it.
Tim, this is Daryl. I think, when CenturyLink is ready to offer a tariff amendment to include text to 911, that's when you would want to go through the whole tariff and see if there are any, statements that text to 911 is not offered as part of the service, because you don't want to have that as a line item with a charge in the tariff and some other part of the tariff saying text to 911 isn't offered. So you would want to make sure that it all comports with itself.
Sure.
And Matt, I saw that you had your hand up. Do you still have a question?
Well, I was going to ask Tim if he had something specific in mind that the question was preparing for.
I don't have anything specific in mind. I was just making sure there wasn't a belief that there was sort of a deficiency in the tariff around the capability of text to 911.
Gotcha.
I mean, ideally, of course, we wanted the tariff as it is today to cover everything, right? I mean, at the same cost, we want data, we want text, we want all of that. So from a deficiency perspective, but I think it's a great question when, as these service offerings come about, all that language is going to have to be probably just revisited to make sure there's no conflict.
And
sure. I just want to make sure there wasn't anything out there that the folks were concerned about.
I don't remember anything that was a nagging issue to be resolved other than the language conflicts that Daryl talked about.
Yeah, and this is Daryl. The other thing that I haven't brought up because it wasn't relevant until we get an offer is whether or not a concurrent session has to be dedicated to receiving text to 911 calls, or if it can just come across the existing concurrent sessions, because that might make a difference in how many concurrent sessions a 911 authority has to purchase. Talking to Wes yesterday about this, it sounded to me like no additional concurrent sessions would have to be purchased. Those could come across your existing concurrent sessions. So that's that if that turns out not to be the case, then that would be something that would need to be addressed.
Because the bandwidth per session is specified, but there's still enough room within that to carry the data because it's minimal.
Right.
Yep. And hey, folks, I should also add this as well, because I split it out when we first were talking about this with ECATS in depth here a few months back. The text to 911 reporting, which I know is important for everyone, and of course, Carol, I'm sure you're very key on that to see that from the statewide summary. But that's an additional cost and different reports going into a great deal of detail, and perhaps that. We should revisit that, but that additional cost per month on the text to 911 reporting is broken out by ECATS to offer that, and that is $10.26 per session. So if we do get text coming down from Entrada, if we can work that out, I'm sure you would want that text to 911 reporting, and that would be $10.26 on top of the $43.95. And Kimberly, I can, I don't know. I can show the group what the text to 911 reporting does, but until such time we can get Entrada to yield a little bit on making this possible, I don't know if I should be adding that into the conversation.
Yeah, probably not. I don't want to add any confusion thinking that we can do that if we don't have that functionality available.
Yeah.
Because I see things and I think I should be able to do it. So I don't want to get that in my head. So, okay, so back to the text map. It looks like we still are, I mean, it's better, but we have some gaps here. And we know from a 911 task force perspective that we had the accessibility committee that specifically is focused on this and watching this as they should be. And we are hearing from Lumen that we're not going to be able to do text across the ESInet anytime soon. So we're back to wanting to promote and find solutions for this.
Now, I believe Alamosa is sitting right there in the bottom central part. He was ramping up, Cameron was wrapping up to get that done on his system. I thought it was in by now, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're looking at the wrong county there, Wes. That looks like Custer, I believe. Huerfano, not me. We're up.
Okay. Huerfano doesn't have it. That's correct. I stand corrected.
Yeah. So since we don't have a solution from an ESInet perspective, we'll have to give this back to the task force and see if we can't leverage this from a task force perspective, again, just through partnerships and trying to help these counties turn green, even if that means the texts are routed to a neighboring county that can cover those for them. So that may be our best option for all of these counties in red. It's a pretty quick and easy solution. Daryl, go ahead.
I don't disagree with you at all about finding other solutions in the meantime, but I don't think we should say that it's not going to happen. If there's not a solution now, that just means that hopefully CenturyLink and Intrado can keep talking and come up with a solution.
Yeah, Daryl, that is absolutely our intent to do that.
Good.
Yeah, the capability is native to the service, and we just need to work through that. The contractual, operational things.
I mean, really, one of the big reasons to move to an ESInet in the first place is to enable future services like text to 911 being delivered via the same path as voice calls. So, I hope that CenturyLink will keep that in mind and continue talking to Intrado and continue trying to brainstorm a solution.
We will do that. You can count on it.
And Wes, if you need me on any of those calls, I'm happy to sit in and talk through exactly what our ask is and why we want them to partner and make this happen for us. So,
well, Kimberly, you're clairvoyant. I was about to ask you. I'll be happy to pull you into a dialogue with that, since you're a Viper user and well known and a Trotto customer. So
that'd be great. The next item, Wes, you're not off the hook yet, is to give us an update on spatial call routing.
yes, and that is a bit more complex than the ECATs, but I do think that we're in pretty good shape for working through that. We've got an understanding here from Intrado and working through a statement of work to be okayed by our product management group and to get engineering to sign off on that. I think it's pretty straightforward at this point, but all that has to be blessed and well understood from our company, as we will then tee that up with Tim. And so that GIS onboarding, I'm not sure how many folks that are on the call today were part of a Rich Johnston review of that GIS also back in September. But the GIS onboarding is to get your GeoMSAG up to 98% accuracy and spending the hours on per each PSAP by your session count. And I can also get that teed up as well. And basically a statement of work that would apply to each of the PSAPs that we're going to be doing with Intrado. And so there's a one-time onboarding with a GIS that includes the whole creation of the GeoMSAG, replacement of your legacy MSAG, all the alley road centerline match rate reporting, etc. And that would be, that's a pretty big lift. We're also doing that in other states, by the way, with the same ESInet. That's North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska as well, with Entrado. The nice thing about that is that the data, of course, that they're working with also has some of that basic DNA as part of the ESInet. And so that lends itself pretty gracefully to an ongoing transitional data management service that I think is very cost effective. It level sets the entire state from small to the largest counties to be on the same kind of service. That don't mean to sound like a sales pitch, that gets us a lot closer to the on board for the full I3 model downstream here. The ongoing management of the TDMS per session, that would add $54.15 per month per session to have that ongoing service. But the onboarding now, that for statewide, the onboarding cost would be $1,806.67 per session to spend the amount of hours. And there's a set formula by the size of the PSAP and all that to get the data up to the 98% match rate for a GEO-MSAG. But once that onboarding is done for the entire state, that's when you'd have the $54.15 per session thereafter to maintain that each month.
Wes, did you say 1806.67 per concurrent session for
Yes,
the
sir.
onboarding?
Yes, I did, Matt.
And you said something about an hourly limit? Did I hear that correctly?
No, well,
No.
they do assign hours. I'm looking for it. I don't see it. I know they had, there is a statement of work. They do assign X amount of hours per session per PSAP. So it's relative to the size of your PSAP on the hours that they'll be spending. Get your MSAG geo-matched.
And what if we bump up against that limit?
They're pretty confident that I asked the same question. And I didn't get an answer back if it would cost any extra. I think they were pretty confident that they can tuck this in within the statement of work they've given us.
Okay.
But I will let Matt, that's a good question. If for whatever reason, if it does happen, what does that mean? We need to know that.
So 1806, that's per SIP session, one-time fee flat. And then once it's complete, you go over to the $54 per month per SIP session.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've already talked a little bit internally about this. If all of the 911 authorities are billed within the same calendar year, let's say it's 2023, if all of the 911 authorities are billed that one-time fee in the same calendar year, the 911 surcharge could theoretically be increased for that year to reimburse you for those costs.
Thank you, Daryl.
There's also a possibility with it started off as 12 billion. Now it's down to 500 million in the reconciliation bill in Congress for a next generation 911 grant program. We could potentially tap into that as well.
So Wes, is this GIS project spatial call routing, something you're looking at proposing in the same ECATS tariff revision, or is that something downstream that you would look at later in 2022?
We initially wanted to do both of them together, but ECATS is very straightforward. It's a fairly easy lift for Entrado ECATS to install. I was thinking that it might be easier to submit ECATS first and then GIS second. Well, we can try to do them both at the same time. I don't know what kind of questions might come up about GIS that might, separate the timing of the two. But what I will do is this, Kimberly, I'll put both of these up, and I guess we can see how they flow through for approval and the correct submission.
Okay, Matt, go ahead.
I think maybe just a point of clarification when we talk about geospatial routing with regards to the TDMS, it's still MSAG based routing. but the MSEG ranges are created and maintained based on your GIS road centerline data. So it's a half step in that direction.
Thank you for Matt. That's really helpful. And Wes or Daryl, how many total SIP sessions do we have in Colorado right now? I know we've increased them.
Yeah, I have, Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong, I have 615 now because of the Colorado State Patrol added 8. Adams County's backup center also added 8. That's 16 more. So,
I have 609 that are being reimbursed, but that's because there are a few that are not being reimbursed due to the fact that they're on military bases that are that don't have a financial relationship with a local 911 authority to get reimbursement. And Adams County's new backup concurrent sessions aren't included yet because they haven't filed an application to increase those.
now, and CSP is got sponsors through the neighboring counties still, and that
Those
hopefully they're submitting that. Right.
Yeah, so I have 622 in total when we're fully implemented, and 613 that should be currently live.
Then that math means the cost per session starts to go down based upon some of this. We'll have to validate with Entrada.
We will drop a couple when we combine
Okay.
Kit Carson and Cheyenne Weld.
Yeah, let me get with you and then share it with the execs. We'll update the pricing based upon what you see.
Well, and we want to make sure we have an accurate count. So I've heard a lot of different numbers right now. So we want to make sure that we get the right count of those SIP sessions. So,
yep.
Okay. Any other questions on spatial call routing? Okay. And I don't see Vicky on. So the next item we have is the LA hardware update. Vicky gave us an update that actually should have been moved to old business. I apologize, but from a LA hardware update, she had a project she announced last month. I went back and forth a little bit with her on contacts and who needs to be included on the list, and I haven't seen or heard anything else about that project. So Cindy or Wes, do you have an update on that?
I don't.
Sorry to say I don't. No, I didn't know what Vicky Hyatt had. I'm sorry, Kimberly, I don't.
Let me reach.
Okay, so if we could get an update from her, she could send it to me and we'll send it out to the group and make sure we understand time frame, what we're looking at getting into the holiday season. We obviously want to coordinate that correctly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Send her an email.
Great, thank you. Next item would be open discussion. So anybody on the call today from a PSAP or authority that has any questions or comments they want to raise with Lumen? Okay, so the Lumen team, do you have anything that we haven't covered that you need our attention on or action item or assistance with?
No, Kimberly, I think the ask is pretty clear for me, though, personally, to get both the ECATs and the GIS information out to the users here. And I will get that accurate count down with Cindy and see how that it will minorly maybe move some of these things that I just spoke to, but I will work on that post haste.
Okay. Great. Okay, the next item would be public comment. So anybody that's joined the call today that is a non-voting member. And before we do that, Daryl, go ahead.
Sure. So I don't know if I'm really public, but I didn't really fit into the other two categories. I just wanted to let everyone know I'm doing the finishing, making the finishing touches on a draft agenda for the workshop for the Next Generation 911 Strategic Plan. Going to be holding that on January 24th. Kimberly has been very kind to offer the meeting space as well as to offer provide lunch. So going to definitely take you up on both of those, Kimberly. So we'll be getting that information out soon to all of the members of the ESInet users groups. We'll be watching for that.
Great. We're happy to host. And if we have a large turnout of people wanting to come in person, we can always divide the groups up. So if anybody wants to make sure that they can come in person and socialize, but still have proper social distancing, our facility allows us to have breakout rooms and still cast even in the same building. So just keep that in mind when you're attending. We can accommodate you.
Very cool. Thank you.
Mhm. Great. Any other public comment? All right, well then we will go ahead and adjourn the call for today. So it's 10:48. We'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for getting on the call. We have several action items. Obviously the first and most important is the transfer issues that our authorities are having. So we look forward to getting an update on that. Thank you everyone for getting on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye all.